Thank you so much for joining actually and taking out time for our podcast. So today's topic is DQOps, and I'm very much excited to hear about it. But before we do that, for our audience, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Piotr Czarnas. I'm the founder of DQOps. It's a pretty interesting data quality platform that my team was working for a few years. It's a platform that was meant to support data quality initiatives for many years. For example,
Mm,
first help data engineers to connect data quality checks in data pipelines, then let data stewards, data quality testers, or even just regular users like data analysts or data scientists to evaluate the quality of data. And finally, let data support teams who will be managing the platform and reacting to any incidents detected. So that was our whole vision that we implemented for one customer, and we followed the same principles, and we decided to make a new version of the platform and release it as open source.
okay. So let's go one step back and try to understand where this idea came from, what challenges you face, because I never heard about DQOps before.
Okay.
Is it a term you coined yourself?
Yes,
Or
yes.
oh, is it? Yes. Okay, that's good.
Well, actually, I like this name because it's like DevOps, DataOps, or many other
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah.
Actually, nobody used that this ops um, name in regards to data quality.
Yeah, that's true. That's why when you mentioned that, it was a new term for me as well, and it made me excited. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay. So tell us about yourself, your background as well. So it makes sense for audience as well that who they are listening. So your background, you're a data guy or you're a business guy, and how
Uh,
how you this whole thing came into picture. You
well,
found so terrible that everybody is doing random DQ and nobody has an idea, no observability on DQ. How this whole thing come from? Yeah.
so one of my former bosses called me that I'm the most ultra technical person that he worked with.
Okay.
So I started my career, I think, about 27 years ago.
Okay.
I also worked in some startup that a Silicon Valley startup that opened an office in Poland. That was
Okay.
about 25 years ago. That was the time when I thought it would be nice to build a startup at some point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Then I worked for big pharma. I worked at Roche when Roche, one of the biggest pharma companies, opened their departments in Poland. I was the
Mm-hmm.
first employee that was hired.
Wow.
And later on, the department had about 400 permanent employees and another over 1,000 external contractors. I
Okay.
started as the first employee. I was the first person that was even promoted, the first and the only person that was promoted to a staff level engineer.
Okay.
Then I took over a team, and I moved into more or less team leadership, where I have grown a team of about 120 engineers. So I was
Okay.
doing a lot of hiring, but I was always working directly with projects, so taking roles as an architect. And in each of those projects that my team was managing, when there was any technical challenge, I was taking it to handle. And
Okay. So you're from technical hands-on guy.
yes, so I
You
was that
develop
technical
application.
hands-on guy that has chosen the business and management path only because I wanted to have influence on the type of projects where I will help. So if I would have a manager on top of me, that would be hard because then some manager who is not technical will tell you somebody's crying and demanding your help, and you will be just assigned to the worst project that nobody wants to work. But if you are the manager who can choose, I can say, okay, this project is doomed anyway. Let's help somebody who actually has a real challenge and the project will actually provide a real value.
Yeah, I
That's
think
why
this
I
is
was able
a,
to stay
yeah.
in technology. So the technology stack that I worked was first it was Java, it was .NET. When I was about 20 years ago, much focused on .NET. Even when Microsoft in Poland is created, it was well, they organized a kind of a championship for the best .NET developer in Poland.
Okay.
They did it twice.
And
So
don't
in
tell me you won it.
No, but I was very close. Actually, on the first trial, I had the same score as like the fourth person.
Oh, wow.
But that was my mistake. I didn't read the conditions, and when I was answering the questions, I didn't use internet because
Ah,
I thought, okay, I will just answer all the questions and then I will use the back button to go back to the questions that I don't know the answer. And I finished the whole test in about 20 minutes
uh-huh.
ahead of time. And I said, okay, now I will answer those questions where I have chosen a random answer, and it was too late.
Otherwise, if the application had an option to go back,
Yes,
okay, okay.
I
And
would
so
just
with
use the internet like the
oh,
others.
oh, so without any internet help and without going
Yes,
back, you still came fourth number
it was
total.
the same. Yes, I was sixth, but that was the same like number of points as the
Okay.
because I when I stopped there, I was just waiting to send the last answer.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would not see the rank in real time.
Yeah, this happens. Okay. So now coming towards this DQOps. So how many years back this journey started and how this idea came to you?
Well, I moved into from pure software development space. I moved into data space. I think about 12, 13 years ago.
Okay.
And my team also shift from just software development to data management. And we are
Okay.
building data lakes for Roche. Then I started, I left, I created one startup. It was later on moved to US. It's now 𝗟𝗏𝘀. So I created a data virtualization platform and I wrote like almost more than half of the source code.
Wow.
So it was
Okay.
a platform that was simulating SQL Server on the wire. So just
Okay.
imagine that you install it
Mm-hmm.
and you can just use standard Microsoft SQL Server drivers from Power BI or Tableau or whatever BI tool you use to
Okay.
connect to it. It looks like SQL Server. It
Mhm.
exposes like 100 management views like a sys.tables, sys.columns.
Okay.
But behind it, it will translate all SQL queries to run them on any database that you choose.
What is the name? I'm just Googling it now.
It was 𝗟𝗏𝘀,
Literal.
𝗟𝗏𝘀 with F,
Literal. Okay.
𝗟𝗏𝘀 data. So I sold my shares um, in that company.
Okay.
But it was a platform that used Apache Spark as
Okay.
a data store.
Mm.
So you are able to turn Apache Spark into a regular data warehouse.
Okay.
Something that Databricks is now doing for maybe a year or 2 years.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So then this DQ thingy come in. So you were
Yes,
not happy
that
with
was
the team performance and you came up with this term or how it happened?
Actually, I was, if you are asking me why it's DQOps, I had the original name was DQO AI, so I had the
Okay.
.ai domain.
Okay.
But well, the AI domains actually are the DNS servers are hosted somewhere on some island
Hmm.
somewhere.
Hmm.
I noticed that the website was just loading. The time to look up the domain name in
Hmm.
DNS is taking 1.5 seconds. So
Okay.
if it just takes 1.5 seconds to find out the IP address of your domain, then forget about ranking any good in Google search, because you
Yeah.
have only 1.8 seconds to load the full page and even load all the JavaScripts and start it.
Hmm.
You cannot just waste already 1.5 seconds to do a lookup. That's
Yeah.
why I said, okay, we need to change the name. And I was
Okay.
looking for some domain that I could actually get. I was searching for a relevant term for, I think, maybe a half a year until I found that I
Okay.
actually take the DQOps domain from somebody.
Okay.
Had it,
Okay.
but was
Okay.
willing to give it.
Okay. Now let's go inside this tool. So this tool is C, based on C or Java. What technology language?
Technically, it's Java.
Okay.
But, at the time when I was building my previous platform, which was written in .NET, I learned that actually, if you want to build an enterprise scale platform that can support multiple users,
Hmm.
then .NET is, well, it could work, except that the choice of connectors is very limited. For example, I had to take the source code of Snowflake ADO.NET driver and fix bugs because it didn't support null values in decimal columns at the time we were
Hmm.
using. So
Hmm.
it will not happen with Java. Java
Okay.
drivers will be always top priority for every vendor.
Yes. Yes.
And the same goes to Python, which also has some limits like multi-threading. So as long as it works pretty well when you run it locally, applications written in Python do not scale when you want to have a server that will be used by like 10 or 20 users.
Hmm.
So that's
Okay.
that's the choice why we built the core of the platform in Java. You were also asking how I moved into this space,
Yes.
because that's so after I left Liftron, I was asked by one very big company, the biggest in its business,
Hmm.
to design a custom data quality solution,
Okay.
because they had a lot of marketing data
Hmm.
and they were actually buying marketing data out of like market research institutions.
Hmm.
So they wanted to measure the quality and actually include that in their contracts. So the meaning of data contracts was not the way as data engineers think it is. Like, it was not just a YAML file to describe the schema. It was actually a legal agreement about the requirements of like the timeliness and completeness and accuracy of data that is delivered, because that
Yeah.
data was used later on for forecasting.
Yeah.
So we must. Our goal was to measure the quality with KPIs and design the whole process around calculating data quality KPIs.
Okay. So let me jump into it, right? So we are saying there are traditionally 6 to 7 standard data quality checks like completeness, null value, blah blah. I think you are referring to those ones, right?
Yes, those are the dimensions. That's
Dimensions, yeah, 6, 7 dimensions are there. So you're
well,
saying, yeah,
there are actually a lot of dimensions. There is even
okay,
a scientific paper that somebody collected all the dimensions that they have heard about doing some
okay,
interviews. So it's, I would think they collected something like 100 dimensions, but only about 6 of them are actually used,
Yes.
typically in when referring to data quality.
Yes. So when we talk about this six, let's go into further in detail because now I will wear my solution architect cap. Okay. So
Mhm.
now when we talk about this tool, so traditionally what happens, we bring source systems and this source system columns and table goes inside these dimensions and comes out and give you output, right? So normally what happens, we use these dimension in our ETL code. It's a very manual work. Are you
Yes,
saying you have created some GUI where you can connect source system and connect a table and rest it will do itself? How how
yes.
how your tool?
That's, well, the idea is that the dimension is just how you report the score. It's not
Yes.
the actual check. What you do are data quality checks. So
Okay.
there are actually two ways to do data quality
Hmm.
and two categories of data quality platforms. One is push down data quality platforms.
Hmm.
DQOps is one of them, and the other are pull up data quality platforms. So what's the difference? Pull up data quality platform are it's actually how grade expectation works when you use the Python checks. So it's an idea that you download the whole table into memory, like into a data frame.
Hmm.
So you download the whole table in memory, and then you perform some checks, like maybe you count invalid records.
Hmm.
If your requirement is that there are no duplicate records, then you
Hmm.
that this column has no duplicate values in any record, then you just
Hmm.
find duplicates. So those are the pull-up platforms, and they work only for small data sets
Hmm.
because you need to pull the whole data in memory.
Hmm.
The other category are push-down platforms that
Hmm.
require a data engine that supports SQL, or at
Hmm.
least that you can create like queries or using like data frames in Spark,
Hmm.
because then you delegate
Hmm.
the check to the database and you create. So let's say you want to count the number of records whose city name column is empty,
Hmm.
because your requirement is that the city name is required.
Hmm.
Your check would be something like select count star. So you
Hmm.
count from this table where this city is null.
Hmm.
That's just the way how a data quality platform will analyze data
Hmm.
quality, and it will return some kind of a measure. Because this query will count the records, you will just, and there are no group by conditions, then you will just get one number, the number of records that are invalid.
So it
And
means it writes us, so you create a dimension and connect with the source system and table, and it goes and do a profiling query or whatever
yes,
query it will build itself, right?
yes. So
Itself.
that's what data quality platforms will do. They will create a query,
Yeah.
they will analyze something,
Hmm.
and dimensions are actually a way of grouping types of problems
Yeah.
in a way that it's easier to report them to like data asset owners, business users. So uh, let's look at a couple of dimensions. When you say we have completeness issues, that
Hmm.
means either the table is too small or is empty,
Hmm.
or a required column has null values.
Hmm.
Okay? So those kind of checks that will measure the size of the table or find nulls in required columns will you will report their results as a completeness dimension.
So when you hit this query, right? It queries goes to source system, right?
Yes.
And source case system can be any source system, or because you are converting dimension into a query, it means you already should, your tool should know that which DB it is going, and the syntax will be created based on that. So
Exactly.
which type of databases you support as of now?
So in DQOps, we made it quite interesting because we support about 20 types of data sources.
Oh, 20 type of data sources.
That's pretty much. And we do it by creating templated queries. So when I
Template.
told you that the platform is in Java, then yes, the core engine is in Java.
Okay.
But many of the components are also in Python.
Mm-hmm.
And that one of that components is the query generation engine, which uses 𝗓𝗓𝗁. 𝗓𝗓𝗁 is the popular library used in Python projects
Mm-hmm.
for templating like websites. So when it's like PHP.
Okay.
So you write. We prepared templated queries for all the checks that we support. That's about 100 or more.
Mm-hmm.
Like this query that counts the number of rows that have a null value in a column. And those queries are implemented as templates, like a PHP, but it's
Mm-hmm.
Ninja. So there is like a placeholder to put the column name and table name. And then we adapted those queries for all the supported databases. So if there is like in SQL Server, when you run a query and you want and the column name has a space inside, you will use those square brackets
Yeah.
to quote. But in other databases, like in BigQuery, you will use those reverse apostrophes.
Mm-hmm.
And in Postgres, you will use double colons.
So
So
you
it's
build
double
all
quotes.
those possible queries based on your experience.
Yes.
So if you have a dimension of check null value, you already know you are hitting, you mentioned 100. How many database types you mentioned? 90, right?
About 20, more or
20.
less.
So null value query can be converted into how many queries you already hard code at
Yes.
backend.
So we just have like templates for those
Mm-hmm.
queries, and it's actually possible to change those templates.
Okay, so it means you might not be allowing to create a new dimension on the fly.
Well, the dimension is just a way of reporting. So if, because what I noticed, it's quite interesting. Even if I worked with data teams in the
Mhm.
same company, people were using well, different definitions of data quality dimensions, especially for dimensions like like consistency
Mhm.
or accuracy. They had something different in mind. And typically, it happens because they pitch their idea of accuracy or completeness issues to the business sponsors.
Mhm.
They already say we found manually without the data quality tool some problems with missing data, and for us it's a validity issue
Mhm.
because the data is not valid, even if other people will call it completeness. Now
Mhm.
they implement a data quality tool and they say find tables that have null values, but we want to report it as validity.
Mhm.
So the dimensions are actually not about, it's about reporting how you show the final score for each table.
Mhm.
Because what people want to know is my completeness score is 100%, but the validity score is 90%, and timeliness is 80%. So for 80% of days or cases, the data was not up to date when it was tested. Okay,
Okay.
but the way how people see it, it differs even by teams. Usually because they already use the name like accuracy, or I remember some people using constantly reasonableness
So
dimension.
so dimension which you are given, you can rename those, is it?
You can just rename it because
But you
that's what we
cannot.
are doing constantly. We even had the same check, and for
Mhm.
one team, we're reporting the results as completeness, And for other team, we had to apply a rename and
Mm,
report the scores as, let's say, reasonableness, because somebody was already using
mm,
this term when
mm.
discussing data quality issues with business sponsors. So, because
Okay.
the business sponsors already know this name,
Mm.
they need to be informed in a consistent way that, well, the reasonableness or some other bizarre name
Mhm.
quality level has improved.
Okay, so when you say this, it means again, you cannot create a custom new dimension.
Well, you
That
can, because it's just a name. It's a name how you report it.
no, not a name. I'm saying a new criteria of dimension that you don't allow, right? Because
We
for
allow,
that,
because you just put any name. So you just take a check that was that we categorized as completeness.
no. What I
You
mean
just
is,
change the name.
no. What I mean is, I come up with a very unique dimension of my own. Can I
It
create
will
new?
be not a dimension, it will be a check.
It'll be a
For
check.
example, like you want to say, we have a very specific zip code format,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Like maybe 3 digits dash 5 digits.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of tables that use the zip code value. So what you can do in DQOps, that was actually, we have created more than 1,000 custom checks. That's why we put that into DQOps. You can actually make a copy of one of our queries that is most similar to what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You create a copy, you change the template, and you change the query. So this query can use, for example, regular expressions
Oh, you can
to
change.
find values that do not match your special zip code format, like 4 digits dash 5 digits. And then you also assign the dimension name, how you want to report it. So you say, I will report it as a validity issue.
Okay, got your point. So now when we are creating this new dimension, you're saying you can copy paste a previous dimension, change the query.
Yes.
Do you have a workflow there? Because I have my steward, they create a new dimension using your own dimension. Then the steward, when whoever create it need to be reviewed by a party, then approved by a party.
Yes.
Then
So
it's
what you can, well, we don't have approval workflow for those
okay.
checks, but what we can do, because the templates will be stored as Jinja files,
Hmm.
what you can do, you can store them in Git, you can do a pull request,
Hmm.
and then you can, because the configuration are just file-based, so those are files, you can say that people who will be creating new dimensions and new checks will be using maybe a development environment,
Hmm.
and then you will have a script that will replicate those files to a production environment. So you can have a kind of an approval workflow.
No, what I mean is approval workflow in production itself.
Yes.
I'm saying not coming from dimension. I'm saying you go into a production, data is okay. You are saying a new parameter or dimension has to come from a development environment. It cannot be directly in production.
So that's also an option. It's just your workflow, how you do, because the way how we implemented the QOps is to store all the files, all the configuration in files. So like DBT does or many modern tool, because it's
Okay.
just easier to start a platform that
Mhm.
stores all the files in all the configuration in files that are like JSON or YAML files, which you can
Mhm.
see, which you can even fix if you decide that you want to maybe replace some parameter,
Okay.
because that's we learned it the hard way. Because DQOps is actually the second version of the platform. When we created the first version for a customer, we
Mhm.
did the same mistake as most other data quality vendors did. I
Mhm.
will not name them, but probably most of them.
Okay.
That's the approach called platform first. So this is a case when you have when your data quality platform uses a database, a
Yes.
regular relational
Yes.
database like Postgres, to store
Yes.
the configuration. So
Yes.
the application, like it could be like the same goes to ETL tools.
Yes, yes, yes.
Your interface to use the platform is just a user interface, web interface.
Hmm.
And the platform will just store all the configuration in the database. And we had the same implementation in the first version of the platform before we made a huge rewrite. And it was a big problem when you have like both development environments and production environments.
Hmm.
Because the data engineers load their data to the development data lake.
Hmm.
You do the testing there. And now you have a production environment, and you actually have two instances of your data quality platform
Hmm.
or two instances of ETL platform. And then
Hmm.
you have to do just open two screens and do this. The name is, I think, rolling chair integration. So you just jump between screens and you just retype the same information.
Hmm.
It also, well, in data world, there is also another challenge. You will probably find a lot of data lakes that have very similar table names that just, so all the tables have exactly the same schema,
Hmm.
but they have a different name. So suppose that you have an organization that receives data from 20 departments, and they tell each department this is the schema, and your table name where you will push your data is, let's say, customers underscore Germany,
Hmm.
and the other is customers underscore Spain, and
Hmm.
so on. So you will have very similar tables with the same schema, but different teams feeding the data.
Hmm.
So now, if you apply define the checks for the first table, you just have another 20 tables that are exactly the same. So if you have to use the user interface to do the same and go through the same screens again and again the same way, it will be time consuming and you will probably make a lot of mistakes. So
Hmm.
we tried to conquer this challenge by creating some command line tools that will export the definition of checks for tables into some JSON files. And then you will use a command line to push the definition back. I have seen that the same approach is now taken by some of the big data quality vendors. So,
Okay.
but it's still problematic because there is one important point. The team where we used our first version of DQOps was quite big. I have never, even if I talk to like data teams every day, I have never met a data team that was even whose size was even comparable to the data team where we created our first version. I have never met a team that was even 10 times was like 10 times smaller.
Okay.
Because the team where we worked was about 50 people.
Okay.
It
Wow.
was about almost 20 people doing technical work.
Okay.
So we had about 13 technical data stewards, just people configuring data quality checks, and another about 30 or 35 data asset owners and business data stewards, people who were reviewing the errors that we detected and with whom we're discussing the data quality checks. And this project was not just like a 3 or 6 months project, it was a 4 years project.
You are saying in traditional, it's so troublesome and complex that it takes a lot of time, and you have solved that problem by
Yeah,
using.
so when we decided to build DQOps, because the team was sometimes we were fully occupied with some new data assets and new data platforms. Otherwise, we had just some spare time
Mm-hmm.
when we just finished some data domain, fixing some data domain, and the team was just waiting for before the next micro project will start. We started building DQOps, but this time we knew what was the limitation. especially when you want to work on a platform that will where you have like 50 people working on the solution, working on data quality, and it will be a project that will take several years,
Yeah.
a real project.
Then you have gaps of those buffers which you
Yeah,
can
and
get.
that was actually our biggest problems, migrating the configuration of checks between tables.
Okay.
Especially that some of the tables were initially created on Azure, on AWS. They
Mm,
also moved to Azure.
mm,
And then for some like business reasons over the years, they moved like to BigQuery. So imagine that the customer changed the data platform and even the cloud where they store the data.
okay.
And you have to redo the work 3 times to use the user interface, connect the same table again, but now in a different data engine,
Yeah.
and use the UI to activate the same checks and configure them to report under the same dimensions as
Mm,
you did already twice before.
mm,
So
okay.
that the way how we did it in DQOps is to follow the current trends with code-first platforms when the configuration is stored in YAML files.
Okay.
So with DQOps, you can just download DQOps, start it locally without setting up any database to store the configuration. You don't need to set up any database
Yeah.
for configuration. You don't need to set up any web servers because
Mm.
it just uses the built-in Netty server inside Java.
Okay.
You just start it locally. You just get it.
So I have many questions technically. Let me throw those questions one by
Okay.
one. You are saying you don't have a workflow. Are you saying workflow we have to build outside by on our
We
own?
do have workflow, but the workflows are related to incident management.
Okay, not creating the dimension.
Not so when you want to have a workflow, you will need to use your own workflow, like
Okay, fair enough.
in GitHub, for example.
Okay, that's fine.
So
So
you need just to decide, okay, if you want to have the workflows for configuration and
mm,
approval of configuration, then use GitHub. And because the configuration files will be stored in YAML files,
mm, mm.
then let's do a pull requests
Yeah,
and
you are right.
apply them.
You are saying normally tools has those workflow because backend there is a database. Here there is no database. Here there is a
There is no
file.
database. There are
So then
files.
we
So
have
you
to
can just choose whatever platform you use for like pull requests if you want to do the reviews.
and your whole code set is connected with the GitHub. You can have push and pull all those in GitHub, or
You
you
will
have to
have
do
to
it
set
one.
it up because
Yeah.
we don't care how you integrate it.
Okay, fine.
We just let you do the way you want.
Okay, fine.
So
Next
that's
question.
if we just put too many limitations, that most teams will probably you will find teams that use GitLab or
Yeah, yeah,
Azure DevOps or something else,
yeah. Okay.
or they don't use Git at all,
So
and
you
you
have
just
the
cut them off.
okay. So you
Cut them
have
off.
the open APIs.
Yes.
You expose APIs. People can pull into GitHub or Azure DevOps up to them.
Yes.
Correct?
So what we created, we for all the operations that you have in the user interface,
Mm,
we created we documented the APIs in the
mm,
source code.
mm,
We make sure that whenever the application is built, it creates a Swagger file.
mm,
We even went so far that we create both a Swagger file
mm.
and a more modern open API file. So we even create the API descriptions in 2 formats.
Okay. Okay.
And then we just use some of the popular tools. I don't remember the name. It's a Python package that generates a typed, documented Python client for the
Okay.
API. And then we just release it as part of the Python package that we release. So
Uh,
if you use this package, you will have all the APIs with documentation because it uses data typing and
mm,
typing. So if you just use an IDE environment, like
mm,
even Visual Studio Code, It will even show you the documentation of all the parameters and API operations that we support in the API. We even
Okay.
created documentation. It took us a few months. So for each operation, you will find documentation with code samples, how to call the API even from Python or from 𝗟𝗏.
Okay.
So
Okay.
for most of the operations, we even have examples of what parameters you need to send, like a Python code that
Okay.
will
Okay.
send it, and what you will get back. So if
Okay.
somebody wants to integrate it, it's just a copy-paste work.
Okay. Now, next question, which we have already answered, that there is no database behind it. It's
No,
just
the only
fact.
database are the databases that we are monitoring, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
platform itself doesn't store the configuration and all the results. Because if you want to measure like completeness, then you want to measure it in like a time period, like how often the data was complete in this month. So we tested it today, yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So out of 10 days that we tested it, 1 day the data was not up to date. So the KPI will be like 90%. Okay,
That's
because
my next
90%.
question. That's my next question. Where do you store the output of your TQ?
Okay, so the platform internally creates a local data lake on the
Okay.
disk,
Okay.
which stores the files in Parquet files.
Okay. File.
And
Okay.
the files are organized in a like Hive compliant data lake. So they
Okay.
are partitioned. So you will find folders for each table where we like a table with the results, a table with statistics, a
Okay.
table with errors. So if something failed,
Okay.
so
So
we
it is.
report
It is.
errors are in tables.
Data lake can be in Azure, AWS, any cloud, or you're specific to
Well,
Azure.
we have a SaaS offering where we replicate those files,
Oh,
those
you are
Parquet
SaaS.
files. We have a SaaS option to
Okay. Option.
replicate those files to Google BigQuery.
Okay.
And then out of Google BigQuery, we expose about 50 data quality dashboards created in Looker Studio.
And my next question was this: do you have built-in dashboards?
Built-in, yes, but they are in the SaaS offering.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you need a BI tool to do it, to
Yeah.
have a customizable. Well, it's interesting because many BI tools, data quality tools and vendors say we have data quality dashboards, but they are nothing like dashboards. They are just hard-coded screens
Yeah. Yeah.
showing some metrics, but you
Hmm.
cannot call something a dashboard until you can change it. It's not
Correct.
fair to call something a dashboard when it's just a fixed reporting screen. It's just a screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because what we also noticed, if you actually provide users the ability to create custom dashboards, and you have an organization that
Yeah.
has many data teams,
Hmm.
then each data team will want to show a kind of a quality scorecard showing those KPIs. Like in this month, the score for timeliness is 90%, completeness 95%, validity 60%, and you want to show those scores.
Hmm.
But every data asset owner or every business sponsor will expect to see something different. So one person will
True.
say, show me
True.
the score for this month and last month. The
Yeah.
other will say, show me a chart showing those charts for each day. I want to see a line chart.
Yeah.
And somebody else will say, okay, but also show me that the first most significant data quality issues already on the dashboard.
Got
Because
it.
I
I
want
got
to
it.
see everything.
Yeah. 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 I got it. I
And,
got it.
the way how we do it, we just provide users the ability to change those lookers to the dashboards if they use our SaaS solution.
So you are
Or the
saying,
other option,
yeah. Yeah.
replicate those Parquet files to your data lake.
And create our own dashboard.
And just because the biggest challenge in creating data quality dashboard is to create a platform that can collect data quality results and maintain those results. Why is it important? Because when you are working actively with data quality, let's say somebody tells you 20%, we don't expect, we expect that at least 80% of records in the customer database have a phone number provided.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just somebody tells you 80% is what we expect. Then you configure a check which counts and measures the percentage of records with missing phone number, and the
Yeah.
result is like 65%, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Then you make some changes. You change the threshold, and
Mm-hmm.
you run the check again. Maybe you made some configuration changes, and you run the check again and again, because you are just testing.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens? For every check that you run, you save the result.
There's a history.
So
Yes.
now think about the KPI, how it could impact your API. If you were just playing with the tool and you run the check 5 times with incorrect parameters,
Average
you
will
have
come
five
down.
failures that are not the errors in the data. They are just your mistakes or your not even bugs, misunderstanding or missed expectations,
Mm.
because the person who told you that 80% of people have a phone number just forgot that this table aggregates also some anonymous customers for
Mm.
whom you never have the email address and phone
Mm-hmm.
number. So they just believe that the 80% of people will have phone number. It's just their wishful thinking.
Mm.
So you just run those checks 5 times, and finally you go back to this data asset owner, you go back to data engineers, they make some fixes.
Mm.
You run the check again, now it passes because you changed the threshold to 80%, to
Mm.
60%, because you agreed, okay, let's monitor that 60%, not 80% have phone number.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But
Mm-hmm.
now you have only one positive result and 5 errors because of your mistakes. So the KPI for you, the data quality is good because you talked to the business sponsor, the data asset owner. They told, okay, let's make it 60% as the threshold. But you have 4 invalid results
Mm.
with your configuration mistakes. So the KPI is only like 20%, very low. So the
Yeah.
problem is how to maintain and update those results
Mm-hmm.
and remove the results or override the results
Mm-hmm.
with more recent values
Mm-hmm.
because of configuration errors. Because
Yeah.
only then you can trust the KPI that you measure the end API, the end result, after you fixed your mistakes as the
Mm-hmm.
operator, as the user, rather than, well, the data and the data asset owner cannot be blamed for your mistakes that you measured it incorrectly.
Mm.
So
I got you.
that's the challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
If
I got
you
your
build
point.
the data model
Yeah.
where you provide ways to either overwrite invalid results
Mm-hmm.
or even delete some results when you decide we no longer want to monitor it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the challenge, because
Yeah.
only then you can trust the scores.
Yeah.
Once you have the scores and you have a data model where we store the data in Parquet files that look like a white tables. So there is no like a separation. It's not like the format is like a flat file, flat table with many columns. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like a fact and dimension, like
Okay.
a star
You
schema.
have built your own model behind it for every damage. So now, related question. You are saying your out of the box dashboards are on SaaS. Your SaaS is where? AWS, Azure, which cloud or any
It's
cloud?
in Google. It's in Google. There is a
Okay.
reason why we have chosen Google,
Okay.
because the Looker Studio that we use is the only BI
Okay.
platform, professional BI platform,
Okay.
that has no license fee per number of users. So the only cost is for the data scanned by BigQuery.
I got your point. So what you're
So
saying here is, what about your tool? When you say your dashboard are SaaS, what about your tool? Your tools are IaaS, is it? We have to install in VM and run this inside the VM, is it?
Well, you can run it locally in your VM because we provide the application also deployed, packaged
Yeah.
as a Docker container. So you
Okay.
can run the tool locally and just and just use our dashboards in our SaaS environment, or you can just replicate the Parquet files to your data lake and create your dashboard in any BI tool
No, no, no.
that
I
you
mean
that you want.
your DQOps tool itself is a PaaS service or IaaS service. Which service is that, or is it also a PaaS service or SaaS
I
service?
would say it's more like a PaaS service.
It's a PaaS service. We can simply download it
Yes.
and
You can
install it.
also run it locally. When we deploy it, we just
Okay.
provide a platform that runs. So we create a VM for every customer.
Okay. Got it.
And I must say it's a kind of a pass because you can push your definitions of data quality checks, which are
Mm,
actually written as those 𝗟𝗲𝗁𝘁 templates. You
mm,
can also create Python scripts that will evaluate the scores. So, for example, when we do anomaly detection with AI,
mm,
we take the historical results. Like if you want to detect an anomaly that the row count has grown significantly. So usually every day the table was growing by plus 10,000 records.
mm,
It was more or less a stable growth,
mm,
except maybe for weekends. But then there is a day when the table has grown by 1 million records.
So it's a
So something
alarming.
that you were not expecting. Maybe the data was loaded twice. Maybe
Mm,
the data pipeline failed. It typically deleted data before refreshing it. Now it didn't delete the data. It uploaded the same data again.
mm.
Okay. So what we do, we create Python scripts
Yeah.
that will get the historical measures, the historical
So these
metrics.
Python scripts are already there as a check and balance and as a
Yes, they
notification.
are part of the platform, but you can actually change them. You can add your own.
Yeah.
So if you have an
Yeah.
idea that you want to use, let's
Different
say,
parameter. Yeah.
you say, I want to use Facebook Prophet to do
Mm,
anomaly detection,
mm,
then you just take the script that we already have that uses some different AI libraries,
mm.
and you can use Prophet. We are
Okay.
using Prophet actually for a customer, but we
Mm,
didn't embed it into the platform because Prophet takes a little more time to fit to the data. And when you want to activate anomaly detection for a lot of tables, then a casual user who doesn't know that there is a penalty for
mm,
at around 5 to 10 seconds for the
mm,
initial fitting the model for every time series. Like if you monitor, let's say you want to detect anomalies in the like the number of null values in each column, and you have a table that has 100 columns.
mm,
So just the cost will be 5 seconds for each column, just
mm.
to feed the Prophet model. And if you have 100 tables, probably fitting will not finish in 1 day. So
Yeah.
people will be just surprised that they want to use AI, they activate it, but they don't get any results, and the platform is just
Mm,
using 100% CPU
mm,
with no results. So that's why we had some AI, more advanced AI,
mm,
but we decided that it's just better to if there is a team that wants to use advanced AI and time series analytics, let's
Okay.
work together. We need first to tell them what's the cost,
Okay.
because
Okay. Mm,
it could, for example, if you use 𝗟𝗏𝗁𝘁 to do auto fitting, it takes about 1 to 2 minutes.
mm.
So it's like the time to do this kind of anomaly detection is just too long.
Yeah. So I have few. We have a time check of 8 to 10 minutes. So I will throw a few more questions. So your
Mhm.
tool is a GUI tool, right? It's not very manual. It's not a code based. You have a GUI, right? Code DQOps.
You can work directly with the platform
Okay.
with those YAML files, because each
Okay.
YAML file for each table that you measure, we create a YAML file, which is actually a data contract. It
Okay.
specifies the list of columns and it specifies the configuration of data quality checks. So that's
So there
actually
is
a data
no
contract.
so there is no front end for your tool, is it?
And there is a front end. So if you started locally, you will also get a user interface.
Or you got a user interface where you see all these parameters and dimension, everything. Okay,
Exactly.
one question I might miss, but I want to quickly ask. When you run this dimension back end, you are saying it will create a query and go back to the hit source system.
Exactly.
So the processing will happen in source system
Yes.
or it's in the source system.
As I told you at the beginning,
It's a
DQOps
push
is a
one,
kind of a push-down
push
data
down.
quality platform.
Okay.
This is the kind of platforms that can work with very big data sets, because the tables that we analyzed
Hmm.
with for a customer were so huge that they couldn't fit on Azure,
Yeah.
couldn't fit on AWS.
Okay. In
They
memory.
could only work on Google BigQuery when they were loaded as native tables, and they were still at around 80% of the table size limit supported by BigQuery. So to work on such big tables, you need to let the tool create a little more smart queries that will, for example, use partition elimination. So we add a group by. So the query has a group by. You can activate the queries in partition mode. So we'll
Hmm.
like measure the quality not of the whole table, but for each partition. So we add group by this like partition by column.
Hmm.
We add a where condition to scan only the most recent partitions.
Okay, because of time.
So
Okay.
we'll just analyze the data
Yeah.
incrementally only for the most recent partitions. We even applied some changes for a customer when we changed those queries a little, and we added one more where condition that was doing a lookup in some table
Mhm.
with the information of that was filled by a data pipeline
Mhm.
with the information of which uh, partitions were recently refreshed.
Mhm.
So we were not even looking into the scanning the partition to detect changes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're
Got it.
just letting users change those templates and
Mhm.
add an extra condition in where to do a lookup if this partition
Mhm.
actually is listed in a table with the logs from data pipeline, that it was actually refreshed. So we could even run this query 10 times a day,
Yeah, yeah, because
because
back in partition
when the
only, right?
pipeline didn't load
Yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah. Got the point.
I will give you a number.
Mm,
When one of the engineers ran just one query
mm,
without the filters on one
mm,
very big table on BigQuery.
mm,
Before he did that, I created a dashboard to show the cost of queries on BigQuery. So how much it costed us. And we are using this pay-as-you-go model. So whatever we run a query, will be charged for that. And
mm,
the guy just jumped when he saw the number on the dashboard. He came back to me and said, "Should I pay from my own salary that $400 for this query that I ran, forgetting to add a where condition?"
mm,
That was just one query run only once. Later on, when we changed those queries to analyze multiple columns at once to do a single pass, and
mm,
we added those conditions to look up
mm,
in the log files, is this partition updated?
mm,
We are able to scan this table every day,
mm.
and the cost of ad hoc queries was around $1,300 a month.
Wow, that's cheaper.
So you just it was even below the cost of the slowest price to buy a BigQuery reservation, which is about $2,000 a month. We're able to, because the queries were like templated, you could just add for all the queries an extra condition to look up in this extra table that the data team created. So we could schedule those queries to run, let's say, even 10 times a day. Because they will first look up if there are any partitions updated, and they will only scan the partitions that were changed.
Yeah. Okay. Now I think we have again time checked. Let's jump on to, as we already confirmed, we can create dimensions, replicate dimensions. We can create dashboards. There is no database at backend. Approval system, you have to create your own workflow in
But the
GitHub.
approval is for incidents. So when there is an incident detected, then actually there is an approval workflow.
Yeah. So
For
incident
the
happens,
incident,
but
because you want to review it and then maybe assign it to a data asset owner or data engineering team.
yeah, okay. Incident workflow is there, but when you create a new dimension, that is where you have to go back and do your own workflow in GitHub or Azure
Yes.
DevOps. Then dashboardings are not there. If we want out of the
Well,
dashboarding, it is on Google SaaS product.
keep in
And
mind,
yeah,
the configuration is in files.
yeah,
So
yeah,
somebody can change those files. So the benefits of letting people create configuration in files and moving the configuration between development and production environments has also its consequences.
yes.
The approval must be done like at the file level or like
That's a
pull request.
DevOps actually. That's a
It's
DevOps.
actually DevOps approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And now if I come on towards, and we have push down approaches there. Okay, I covered that part. Okay, now let's come towards the licensing. How do you license your DevOps, and what is the license of your out of the box dashboarding?
So so the open source version doesn't have the dashboards because they are in the SaaS environment. You have to build your own.
Mm.
And the open source version doesn't have a user and access management because it's meant for people who just want to test it locally. So
Yeah.
we follow the same approach as as for example, I think it was used by some other vendors
Mm.
that security and access management is paid. And the payment, the license fees are based on the number of users.
Number of
Yes.
users.
Because there is also a challenge in many data quality platforms have the problem that when you buy a professional platform, you will pay for the server license. And now when I talk to data teams, they have one problem. When you buy a central set up a central data quality platform that will do reporting, then regular data teams, people who have no experience in data quality, they first need to learn it, are afraid to connect their data sources
Because it
and
stops. Everything stops.
test data quality. Because if you just, I will give you an interesting number. Whenever we asked some data asset owners, what checks should we test? The only 40% of checks that people told us to test were valid. The other 60% were not mostly data quality issues. They were just failed expectations.
Yes,
People
yes.
just believed that this column is never null.
Okay,
Or
I got your point. So now when you say user-based license, normally world is coming out of user-based. People are going towards compute and CPU-based, more over compute. But you are saying in data quality world, as testing, a
it
lot of
will
testing
work
is
better because now if we
Mm.
just say we allow you to use the platform by 50 users, we don't care whether you have the same user using the production environment where they do reporting to business sponsors. If they also use a development environment shared internally but in the team, and if they just start a local instance of DQOps on their computer because they want to learn in a place that nobody will
I
see their mistakes.
Yeah, I was about to ask that if I buy 10 users from you, is a named user or unnamed user?
It's a named user because, but it's just we are just limiting the number of users that you register in the platform.
No, I
But we
mean,
don't care.
if I take 10 users Mustafa, do I need to define my Mustafa email address, or is just
You can just manage them
User
because we
one,
just
user two, user three. Anyone can use
they
anything.
will be identified by emails,
Okay.
but we also allow to use like single sign-on. So
Oh,
anyway, they will be identified by your single sign-on
see,
ID.
my challenge is I have we a lot of organizations have uh, contractors working over there, and people are working in cycles, in shifts. So if I buy a 10,
And then you need to buy a license for every person because it's not like a floating license.
it's not
It's
a
just a
floating, you're saying it's a named license.
named user.
Normally, how much it cost, if you can share, or it depends
Well,
on.
the minimum team size is for 5 users, and we
Okay,
charge. So it also includes the support and the ability to host it in fully in SaaS. It's
okay.
$24,000 a year.
On
But
SaaS, you're saying
it's,
SaaS.
yes, we can also
DevOps,
provide it as like a PaaS environment, SaaS environment where we host it.
okay, you host, okay. And
Uh,
sorry, you host, when you say you host in Google or your AWS, you can also host.
we host it in Google. If you want to host in AWS, that will be a PaaS solution where we will suggest that you install it in your own environment
Mhm.
inside your virtual network, so you can access your databases directly
Okay,
because
so
that's
what
been
you're
done.
saying is if we buy DQOps SaaS solution, minimum is 5 users, which is
Yes,
around $24,000 a year.
yes.
And
But so that will be like around uh, almost $5,000 a year for a user.
mm,
But when you want, because that's just the profitability point.
now which is fine. Now let's come towards
But
PaaS.
uh, but if there is more users, we just start applying aggressive discounts because we just need
Which
a
is fine.
minimum
Yeah,
price to cover
yeah.
the cost of training, support, answering questions. It's just a bottom price that covers this area. But the difference between supporting 5 users or 20 users is minimum because
Yeah, yeah.
probably you will have already the same 5 power users who will know our email address, who will know somebody on our side, and will ask questions. So
Now, which is
the
fair.
cost is the
Now,
same,
yeah, now come toward the PaaS, which we are saying you will install in our environment. What is the licensing cost for that?
but
Same.
we also may need to plan some extra budget.
Mhm.
If, for example, you have some architects who demand preparing some architecture slides, because many organizations will have a lot of approval steps. So we cannot. I can just give you the tell you how to download the Docker
No, 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 no.
package
No, we will not do.
container.
We will buy your services to install, set it
But
up.
then you will need just actually will need to discuss about the extra services
But
because
that is a CapEx service, lah. I think you will
yes,
come, you will install. Once that is done,
yes.
once it is running, then what is the license cost? It's the same license cost which
Yeah,
is
that's the license that I told you.
okay. Okay,
Because the extra installation cost will need to be estimated based on your requirements, especially
fair enough.
if your architecture team requires some extra documents.
Okay, okay, I got your point. So you're saying $25,000 means around, yeah, 25,000 for 5 user bare minimum. Okay, to start with on a journey on this one. Okay, I got the idea. The only cost is no, but the thing is, the moment we do SaaS, all compute and everything is on you. But
Yes,
when we do a PaaS, this compute is on us.
yes.
So it means we can ask more discounts from you, lah. Because once we are going to
Uh,
PaaS, we are paying the
we
compute
can
cost.
think about discounts, but they will be, I think, compensated by the extra support that will
Yeah, yeah.
require. Because then, because when I just when we make code changes,
Mm-hmm.
all I do is do a pull request in our environment,
Mm-hmm.
go through some approval workflow just to click approve,
Okay.
and 10 minutes later, all the SaaS environments are upgraded.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need to do anything because the whole like our environment is fully managed by Terraform.
Ah, okay,
It will be
okay,
fully automated.
okay.
But if we make an upgrade and there is some migration involved, then our Terraform will do it.
Okay,
For
okay.
you, we'll
Mhm.
actually need to go back and say we need an extra cost for more advanced consulting,
Hmm,
because
hmm.
whenever there is an upgrade, we'll need to provide
Yeah, yeah.
help,
I got it.
like to
I got
help
it.
you, assistance when you do the upgrade. So even if you get a discount,
It will cover over
will
there.
be compensated anyway by some extra
No, which is
extra.
fine. Which is fine. So now what we need to do is, do you guys have any demo on your ops, DQOps? If
I
there's a
think
demo,
let me put that on the chat. You can just watch a couple of videos on YouTube.
yeah, you can share. Actually, you can share me on LinkedIn because this meeting will turn off. This chat will go away.
Yes.
Okay, let me pick it up. Thank you so much for session, and I really love this session. It's a new term into my preview, and definitely this is going into my book, which is coming this month or next month, because this is the new term. It has to go into my book.
Yes.
So, so again, thank you so much, and looking
Thank you.
forward for a session for next time. Have a nice
Thank
weekend.
you. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.